Call queues are used to manage calls when there are more callers than there are agents to answer them. An example of this is when a caller presses 1 from an IVR menu to reach sales or support, and they're put into a call queue and hear some music while they wait for their call to be answered by the next available agent. Queues can be simple ring groups to allow multiple users to be rang at once or in a pattern and become more advanced from there. Let's explore standard call queues in more detail and talk about their features by navigating to Tools. Under PBX Features, we'll find Call Queues. Click Create Queue and keep the type as standard for this demo. We'll give it a system extension number. This is dependent on the extension length that you've set in the extension settings again. We'll call it Sales Queue. Since this is a system extension, calls can be routed from familiar apps like the IVR, directly from a DID, or transferred to by internal phones, and can be accessed directly by dialing from a handset as well. The ring strategy is how calls will be routed to our queue members, and there are several methods to choose from. So these include ring all, which is ring all queue members simultaneously until someone answers. Round robin, where calls take turns ringing each queue member evenly as calls come into the queue. Least recently called, so ring the queue member for whom the most time has passed since taking the last call. Fewest answered calls, ring queue member who has taken the fewest calls in the queue. Random, it's just that, randomly ringing queue members. And finally, in order, so ring queue members in order, always starting with the first member in the list. Let's use ring all for our setup. Next, we choose the individual or group member extensions that are part of the queue. Next, we're going to choose the individual or group member extensions that are part of the queue. I'm going to select a group, and I'm going to choose our demo group. Permanent means that the extensions are always logged in and receive calls from the queue, while must log in means agents can log in and out of the queues as needed. I'm going to go with permanent. We can further customize agent behavior with these additional settings above, starting with seconds to ring each member. This is how long do we ring an agent's phone before the system gives up and moves on to the next person. Seconds between members, how long to wait for an agent to answer before ringing the next queue member. This is used for a cascade style ring hunt. Seconds for wrap up indicates how long do we give agents idle time between calls. Acknowledge call, again, is where agents need to press 1 to accept the calls. If the calls are not accepted, the system moves on to the next agent. Auto log off after missed calls. If an agent misses more calls in a row than this setting, they are automatically logged out of the queue and must log in again to take calls. Receive calls while on a call, toggle to yes if you want this feature enabled, but it's disabled by default. The pickup announcement is where you set what callers will hear once they're put into the queue. This can consist of how many calls are waiting, the caller number, a pickup announcement, which could be a message or music on hold, and a few other options here as well. Next is the caller experience section, where you'll set what callers will hear while they're on hold. This could be ringing or music. So we're using music on hold by default here and have an audio playlist already configured to use. We can change that default sales group. We want to announce the callers their position in line and estimated hold times and update them every 90 seconds. You can also choose the language as well. We can customize these hold time announcements depending on the language and any custom sound files that we want to include from the Sounds Manager. For our in-queue call routing over at this tab here, we're going to create behavior that routes callers to extension 200 after they've been on hold for 2 minutes. This is optional, and if left blank, callers will be held indefinitely. So we could say if callers are on hold for 300 seconds, 5 minutes, route to extension 200. We've got a number of different options that you can sift through as well, such as if they press 0, will be routed to an operator or a different extension of some type. And finally, we can set specific queue permissions on certain extensions. So if we want someone to have more managerial access to this queue, including reports and maybe live viewing through the switchboard, listening into queues and so forth, we can add those here. So I can add Mr. Watson here and give him detailed view permissions. And I could take another extension here and give this person call control. And we can hit save to save our new call queue. Now, what of the logging in and logging out by users? Well, configuring a login and logout extension for agents to join and leave queues can be done by creating an agent login extension. Under Setup Manage Extensions, you can go ahead and click Create Extension. You can create an agent login. Give it extension 501. Do we require a password for agents to log in or not? And we can use this not only just to log in as we chose previous, but also to log out by creating a login logout extension 501. So we're going to toggle that to yes. And we can select whether we want to require agents to enter their extension number each time that they do log in. And of course, with the optional password. We can choose to apply this to all queues or individual queues. Now, since we want this login to be only for the sales queue we created earlier, we're going to choose specifically extension 400 or our sales queue. And now that queue can be logged in and out of with extension 501. So we're going to save that. Now, there are a couple of other ways to log in and out of queues. If we log in as a user under extension management, for example, you can head over to Features, Phone Features, and Rapid Dial Favorites. We see Add Status Indicator. We're going to choose Agent Login Indicator. We're going to choose our extension 501 for logging in and out. And the queue to monitor is our sales queue. The rapid dial phone entry can now be accessed by the user from their handset rapid dial key or their favorites list, such as on the D80. Another easy way for agents to log in is by adding the agent status indicator widget to the switchboard layout. If we head there and click on Add Widget, we can head to Queues, My Queues, and here we've got the login, logout, pause, unpause. We can also just go on the side here, and we've got a quick dial as well to access the queue and do sort of a simulated phone dial in. So as well, you can also see the amount of calls taken and the amount of calls missed under that widget, so it's a really powerful and handy tool to have available. And now let's see what it would be like from the handset to log in here.
Agent logged in. Goodbye.
There, we're logged in and we're ready to take calls. So I hope you now have a basic understanding of setting up and using call queues. In this segment, we're talking about advanced call queues. Advanced queues are a great way to utilize agents from one queue with low call volume and have them take calls in another queue that's either overcommitted or doesn't have any available agents. Let's head to Tools, Call Queues, and create an advanced queue. Queue, with the type advanced. And I'm giving it extension 502 with the name, sales queue, advanced, and a ring all strategy. Now down below, I'm going to enable global arrival time and both secondary queue members to handle overflow and no primary members logged in, so that agents are only joined when the primary members are unavailable. This will become enabled after callers wait for 20 seconds.
You also notice the feature autofill, and when enabled, the queue will serve multiple queue calls at the same time. Queue autofill works with all ring strategies and is recommended to be enabled for most use cases. Referencing the knowledge base, a queue configured for round robin, as an example, with no autofill, will serve up a caller's call by ringing the first agent in the queue, then if they don't answer, the second and the third, and so on, in top-down fashion. If autofill is enabled, multiple calls will be served simultaneously. Check the help document for more information on using autofill.
So we'll decide on our queue members here. We're going to go with the default group, which will be, for example, our sales group. And our secondary members are going to be our demo group, and in this case it could be a customer support group. So we've got the customer support group that can act as secondary agents to this group in the event that there's no sales group members available. And we're going to choose must log in, so it's optional. We'll go to the caller experience tab. We've got our music on hold. We're going to go with the sales queue music on hold, which includes our message and our music as set up in music on hold section. Announce position, hold time. As a quick reminder, we covered the caller experience in a little bit more detail in the standard queue segment. So if you aren't familiar with that caller experience tab, go ahead and check out that video as well. So this queue will offer callers the ability to receive a callback instead of waiting on hold, and only those placed 5th or higher in line. Our queue type is member waits, and we can set our custom caller ID to show callees when receiving the callback from this queue. And you can add a number should you want to do so. The dial prefix to match for our outbound route, so that could be 1 depending on your dial plan for North America. So you can actually customize or specify specific routes or providers from the outgoing call rules for this specific callback queue. So if your audio prompts look good, we can save these settings. If we head to the in-queue call routing, we're going to say if a customer has been waiting for 360 seconds, we're going to route the call to extension 100. Again, these in-queue call routing details were discussed a little bit more in standard queues. So again, check out that video if you aren't familiar with the in-call queue routing, but the information on the page here is pretty easy to understand if you want to go through it and make your customizations accordingly. So we can save this call queue now, and and you'll notice up here we have prioritize queues. So we can prioritize queues, which will determine what calls are given priority among multiple call queues. Support calls are a good option in this scenario when the number of agents is limited. So we've got our queues here that are already set up. We'll find the prioritize queues button here. We're going to click this and add a priority group. Choose the queues that will be part of the group, and you can rearrange them by dragging them and changing their order. Now let's utilize our new priority group by modifying our sales queue, the in-queue call routing. Instead of routing to a single extension, we'll update this to our advanced queue, which is 502, and it's the highest priority queue according to our group settings. So from here, you're ready to start using the advanced queues and even configure call queue recording if needed, and touch up anything that you need to touch up before going live, including testing the functionality. So we'll save this. So we've learned how to create advanced call queues in this segment, including how to prioritize, how to handle overflow, and how to offer callers callback as well. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one.